Hello, guys, and welcome to Comic Book Weekly. And as you can see, I'm the only one here right now. Mike is still figuring out his computer issues. We hope he can figure it out. Brant is going to be on in a minute or so. So Brant told me to go ahead and start. I'm going to let him know that I'm live so he could jump on. Oh, he actually just jumped on. So there you go. So Brant is here. Let's see if his tech issues are okay or
Hope.
not issues.
Can everybody hear me okay? If so, we're good.
You are good. So we just started the show. We are hoping that Mike will be able to make it. He's been working on getting his computer set, I think, since 10. So I don't know what's going on with the tech issues there, but hopefully they get all settled. But we are gonna jump into the news first. We'll save our big topic for after we talk about some of those news pieces. So our first piece we're going to talk about, going to try finding things that Mike did not mark down. So Harbinger is getting a movie. How do we feel about this?
I'm excited about it. I mean, Harbinger is, when he's done right, he's a really cool character at Valiant, and the way that they rebirthed that character for this new version of Valiant so many years ago now, I think it was a really cool concept. And the fact that Harbinger is bringing in some of those other teen characters from what was their team called? I can't remember what the name of their team was, but the Renegades, I think is what they were called. So it's going to bring some of those teenage heroes from Valiant, hoping for Faith. That would be really cool. So I'm excited for it, and it's a huge move for Valiant. So congrats to them.
For sure. Let's get into the next thing. I don't mind giving my 2 cents on. So it's Wonder Twins has a movie in the works, but it's gonna be a HBO Max movie. So some people are like, "Who asked for this?" But I think someone brought a good point on Facebook. Someone's like, "Who asked for Peacemaker?" And I've actually been
Right.
enjoying that TV show, and a lot of people have been enjoying that TV show. So you never know. And a property like Wonder Twins, you could do so much with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think who was it that wrote that series, that short-lived like maxi series?
Mark Russell.
Was it Mark? Well, yeah. I thought it was Mark, but I wasn't positive. But yeah, so he did something completely different with them that we hadn't seen before. We've seen, obviously comical versions of them. We've seen serious versions. So you could go any direction with that. And the tone that DC seems to be going lately might be more comical, but that's fine. But you could do some cool stuff visually with them too. So I just want to see more about it before I make a judgment on it. Because just hearing it, it's like it could be cool, it could be lame. You just don't know.
I love that Tevye asked the same thing I said. Who asked for the Wonder Twins movie? No one.
Nope,
I'm sure someone
nobody.
did,
Right.
but no one really
Yeah.
did. How can it work? The comic again. Like believe we all ended up dropping it by the end, but there's definitely a lot of people that enjoyed it, and it's like very Saturday morning cartoon. So I think any property could be good. It's just put it in the right hands. You can make a cool property.
Yeah, exactly, and especially if they go tongue in cheek with it, right?
Oh yeah,
Because
sure.
that's kind of what they've done with Peacemaker as well, right? It's very tongue in cheek. All Suicide Squad is really. So
yeah, and Peacemaker is like a really good character piece as well. So you just never know what you're gonna get with it.
okay.
I'm gonna go into we're going comics media. I'm trying to save some of the bigger pieces just in case Mike can jump on. So the comic piece, there's a new Batman series. Every week there's a new Batman series that we are going to talk about. But this one is about Superman not being there in an alien invasion, and I think it has to do with the Fortress of Solitude as well, but with Batman, which is a premise that's interesting. Like I can't lie that that's not an interesting premise, but it goes back to, do you want another Batman book? Will you pick it up because it's just another Batman book?
I must have missed this news story. I didn't even see this one.
It came up today, so it was
Oh, okay, gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, I haven't looked back since this morning. So yeah, it's like you said, it's another Bat series, and if it's, I don't know, it always comes down to word of mouth, creative team, and that, in concept for me, if I'm going to pick up like one of these, offshoot kind of things. So that one, depending on the week, if it's like a big week, I'm going to pass on that, wholeheartedly. But if it's like a really small week and I'm like, I need something else to read, maybe. we'll see.
That's how I feel for sure. Like,
Yeah,
I think if it depends on how many comics come out, for sure.
right.
Let's get into Stillwater is getting a one shot, and it looks like they're going to be unveiling some of their mysteries in this. It's cool that Image Comics is really expanding their franchises into more than just their series. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's also interesting that it's going to wrap up the series too. From
Mhm.
what I read, it's so I didn't even know it was coming to a close that soon. It's like, okay,
Me
this is going to
either.
reveal all these secrets, and it's going to end the thing, and it's going to introduce other characters and stuff. It's interesting to go that route, and it's like you don't know like if that was the plan all along or what the case may be, but I love that if it. So I'm just like with no knowledge of like if it got canceled, if it's time to end it, if it's the end of the actual story or whatever. But if it was, and you get this one shot, it's like the equivalent of a TV series ending abruptly, and then you get that TV movie to wrap everything up, and it's like, okay, finally, at least we get some closure. So I think that's cool. I wish more series and stuff would do that.
So we do have a question here. Where is the comic panel poll link? So this week, Brant launched a very successful Kickstarter, and Mike had a busy weekend, and then I've also was busy with all my comic work. So we decided we are not going to do it this week, and we'll just skip a week and do it next week. Because if we're not going to do it completely full throttle and like as well as we can, then we're not going to do it. So that is the lesson I learned, I would say, last year. We really always try, like, no matter what, dad panels. And we're like, you know what? We skip a week. That's okay. So
Exactly.
that is what happened this week, is that we didn't have the chance to do it. But we'll be back next week with it. All right. So moving on to the Captain Marvel binary form is going to become her own character, which honestly I have not been loving this arc of Captain Marvel. So I don't really care about this news, sadly.
Yeah, I haven't loved this arc either, and it's like, okay, it's at least they're doing something with that version of her, but I didn't love the way it came into being, and it was really not explained well within the story. It was just like there, and now it's like, okay, now we're gonna do something with this. It's like, I don't know that I care enough, unfortunately, but we'll see what they do with her.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting to see like how long that series has been lasting. I feel like this is like the
Yeah,
longest lasting Captain
right,
Marvel series with the same writer, especially Kelly
right.
Thompson, who's writes Spider-Man right now, as Black Widow, as the Substack stuff. I just find it so interesting that it's been going on for such a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has its audience, right? It's just, I don't know. It's like, of all of Kelly's work that I've read, this is one that's kind of in the middle.
Mhm.
There's some really good issues, and then there's some, a handful of like, not, I just say like middle of the road, not bad. I don't think any of them are really bad. It's just, you know, I there's like certain issues that just make me like, oh my god, this is such a good book, and then you read like three or four after that, it's like, that's okay. So
Yeah,
it's a weird dynamic with this book. It's strange.
I definitely feel the same way about Captain Marvel. And I feel like recently there hasn't been a great issue from the series.
Yeah.
Speaking of news, thoughts on changes with Comixology that has been displeasing to a lot of readers. I don't read Comixology books very often, so I know there's been
Well,
chat about the format or something, but I don't know much about it.
yeah. What I read, I haven't read anything on Comixology for a little bit, but what I read was something about the new interface for the app, or the way that you read it through the Kindle thing is not, it's not displaying the comics properly, or doing it the same way that the Comixology app did, and it's making it harder to read and harder to navigate and that kind of thing. So it's not as intuitive, or I don't know, developed as Comixology's platform, which is weird. Why wouldn't you just use what's already in place and is already proven to be successful? I don't understand the logic behind that.
Yeah, that's definitely very weird. Hopefully they end up fixing the bugs for that and not losing comic readers along the way.
Yeah.
So next up we have, this team always returns. Thunderbolts. They're returning again. But someone described it as like the Ted Lasso comics. I think maybe it was the writer. I saw a headline about that. I'm like, I really like Ted Lasso. So I'm like, all right, that's interesting. And Clint's in it, which is cool.
Yeah.
But Thunderbolts, like they've done it so many times now.
Yeah, I've not watched Ted Lasso. Lisa loves the show, but yeah, it's like currently there's a Thunderbolts team that's under Kingpin, right? So it's not even been gone for any time at all. They're just like, okay, we're gonna do it right. So like Clint's like, no, these are the Thunderbolts, and the one saving grace is Hawkeye is in it, which that's great. So I think some of his best stuff was leading that team. This is obviously a different version of the team, but I'm going to give it a shot. I don't. It's not like, oh, the Thunderbolts are back. It's like, oh, it's the Thunderbolts again at this point.
Yeah. I don't remember the last time they made a really good Thunderbolts book, but I do remember the last time they relaunched it, because I think since we've been doing this show, there's probably been 6 or 5 Thunderbolt titles.
Yeah. What was that one with Winter Soldier and the Cosmic Cube and coming out of No Road Home or whatever it was? Yeah,
there was the Red Hulk one. There's a lot of different Thunderbolts around here.
Forgot about the Red Hulk one.
Yeah. Wow. I haven't read any of them, so I don't. Only Hawkeye is like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting, because I don't think we're really seeing Clint anywhere right now.
Yeah, except for like the Old Man Logan timeline. Other than that, yeah.
So next up, we're going to talk about the Lord of the Rings trailers. This is for the TV show, I believe.
Yeah, it's the new TV show Ring of Power. Rings of Power that's coming out in September, I believe. I actually really liked it. I thought it was a cool trailer. Not going to talk about the controversy over it because it's stupid, but yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. I'm a big fantasy fan, and reportedly like the budget for this show is astronomical. It's like supposed to be the most expensive TV show ever made or something.
Not surprised. Is Peter Jackson attached to it, or?
I honestly don't know. I know that it is filming in New Zealand, or at least partially in New Zealand, just like the movies did. I don't know if he's directly involved, if he's involved at all. But I know they've taken a lot of care with it. The stories from it, it's like a prequel to Lord of the Rings. So it's like they're taking stories from the appendices of the stuff that Tolkien wrote. It's like back before that. It's like when the rings were first made. So yeah, it's way before that.
Prelude of the prelude.
Yeah, exactly. So it looked interesting though. And like I said, I'm excited for it and I can't wait for it. So.
All right. Well, we'll talk about the big trailer in a second. But next, we're going to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi getting a release date, which is March 4th. I think it's interesting that they are not releasing a Marvel shows at the same time as Star Wars shows. So I'm guessing next is Moon Knight. And then they're going to have Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of smart because you're not, diluting your market. I mean, you're whatever.
Your genre stuff. Yeah, and your markets, I guess, too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, between the two fandoms and competing with yourself, basically. So focusing on one at a time is smart, and they always have something on. So that's really good, whether you're, because most people are, if you're, you're going to watch both. Like, I know there's some people that just watch one or the other, but I think a lot of comic fandom are sci-fi fandom, fantasy fandom, etc. There's a lot of crossover is my point. So it's like there's always some new show on Disney Plus, and that's cool. And I love Star Wars. I love Marvel. So interchanging them, switching back and forth is cool with me. I was surprised that it was coming that soon, especially like Boba Fett just ended. So then you're going straight into Obi. So that's, and obviously, like you said, Moon Knight too. So it's just like back to back to back now. They got so much content, but I'm not going to complain. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And they're shorter shows too. So it's, so it's not like you're having to stay with this for 3 months. It's like, a month and a half, a couple months maybe. I think the Star Wars shows are like 10 episodes maybe. I don't remember. Maybe it's 8. I think it's 8. But and like the Marvel ones have been like 6 or so. So
yeah, they've been short. I'm curious to see like the Miss Marvels and She-Hulks if they're going to be that short as well. Yeah, I mean, it's a good time to be a TV fan. That is for sure. There's so much content to watch.
Exactly. Looks like Mike
So
is
let's
sharing his top 5 with us, so it
oof,
doesn't look good.
doesn't look good for Mike. And I will say, for everyone that's on, Mike has been very much trying for a whole hour to get on this show. So let me
Yeah,
say,
he
um,
he literally just said, "I'm done. I waited long enough."
yeah,
Yeah,
he
it
wants to be
sucks
on.
when
Trust us.
yeah, he's very unhappy about it, but it sucks when you got technical issues. His computer's down and it just won't cooperate with him. So unfortunately, we're not going to have Mike this week. We apologize for that.
Yeah, we do apologize. And we'll have Mike again next week. But yeah, that sucks. But at least we do have his top 5. So when we go down that list, we'll do that. But yeah, next thing we're going to talk about is the Netflix shows for Marvel leaving Netflix. That I guess I was a little surprised by. I thought they would just keep it there, but are they going to move it to Disney Plus? Or are they just going to be available for DVDs? Especially characters like Daredevil that they're using in other places. But then you might
Yeah.
get like Jessica Jones and Shield. Who knows? I feel like a lot of these
Yeah.
characters, besides Iron Fist, are probably going to be shown somewhere else.
That makes me. I love Iron Fist. I'm just gonna put it out there. I absolutely love that show. It's one of my favorites, and I hate that it's not gonna. But whatever. Won't get into all that. But yeah, no, it's we. I think we knew eventually that was gonna happen, and it makes sense because I think slowly Marvel's been trying to bring everything back under the umbrella and keep everything in house. Aside from Spider-Man, which they can't. So they can do whatever they want with it now that they have this big,
Make
mega
money.
franchise. Yeah, exactly. Make money and creatively do the kind of things that they want to do with the characters, which I think is really cool. And we've already seen Daredevil, like you said. And so hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get some of those other characters popping up here and there. I would absolutely love that. I'd love to see these shows pop up on Disney Plus, but also just do something new with them. Yeah.
For sure. We do have a question from new type JB Lee. Speaking of Devil's Reign, did you find it a bit funny that the champions guest star in the last issue, considering they faced similar law a year before? That whole entire comic book series, we almost did a topic on do we like Devil's Reign? That whole series has nothing to do with anything, sadly, that's going on in the Marvel Universe, besides maybe Daredevil, and I don't even know if it has to do with that anymore. It feels so
Yeah, and
unconnected.
it does. It does feel very unconnected, and that's sad because this issue felt really big and really good to me. And it was like if this event was having repercussions all over the Marvel universe, I would be like, oh, this is huge implications for the entire Marvel universe. But it's like totally insular. It's its own thing, which it's kind of like we've complained about events taking over other books. But at the same time, if you're going to do an event and involve everybody in the universe in the event, it does kind of have to flow out. And it's just, there's like this balance that it's not quite striking.
No. And Tevye asks, is Marvel events a waste of time? Or I guess the real question are any events a waste of time? I think it depends on the event. And we keep saying this, but like the War of the Realms still has ramifications today.
Yeah.
Jane is Valkyrie. So like, and that
Right.
has not changed. And that was because of War of the Realms, King in Black. You still have ramifications for especially Eddie's son. Everything that
Mhm.
happened there still has ramifications. So I think it just depends on the event. Sadly, in this regard, I don't think there's going to be many ramifications.
I mean, the only one would be the end of that issue,
Kingpin.
which was,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Other than that, yeah, it's like, I don't know. Because it's Kingpin's been the mayor, but he's barely been mentioned anywhere else, right? Except for in Daredevil.
I
So
feel like purposefully too. It's so
yeah,
weird. I wonder how like editorial was for this event. Like, because it just seems
right.
like it should have just been a Daredevil book, and they're like, no, we want to make more money off of this. We want, and also I think it was the idea of like, oh, we want more people to know about Chip Zdarsky's run. Not that people already don't know about it, but maybe it's like, oh, this
Yeah.
is a jumping on point. Let more people know. Put it on a bigger stage, and I don't think it quite worked here. I don't. I actually think this is my least favorite part of the run thus far.
Hmm. I it's hard because I'm enjoying the story, but it's you can't ignore all that other stuff that surrounds it, and like we just talked about. So it puts a cloud over the whole experience because of that, I guess. So
And I
yeah,
guess since we're like dancing around the topic, we'll talk about the ending of Devil's Reign. So spoiler alert for the books, but The ending was that Kingpin found out through getting his memories back that and through like the Purple Man's powers that Matt Murdock is Daredevil, which I was like, man, I don't care, because we've seen this so many times. It's like you put it back in a box just to take it out again.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel does that a lot, right? It's like the only thing they haven't taken back out. Yeah, the only thing they haven't taken back out is restoring Peter and MJ's marriage. But anyway, I mean, like literally, like one of the initiatives of Quesada was to diminish the X-Men, right? To get rid of all the mutants. Now we literally have them reborn every other day. So it's it's like I think the build up to him getting his memories back was good, but I don't care about it. Like we see this, like you said, so many times before with Matt's identity and stuff, and it's been like this central factor of his whole story in the past couple of decades. And it's like, do something different, do something new with that. Who cares if Kingpin knows who he is now? It's just where does this go? It goes right back to the same cycle. So it's like leaving it back where you found it all over again. So that bugs me a little bit.
Someone asked if I think Tevye asked, does he know Peter Parker's identity? I mean, not from this cliffhanger, but I guess you never know.
Yeah, I mean, if he was smart, he'd be like, "Oh, I can get memories back from this thing. Tell me everything I don't remember at all." And he'd have all these secrets that he used to have. Who knows?
But we'll find out the next issue. I'm guessing they're going to stick with Daredevil, since it's not a Spider-Man event and does not want to seem to tie into Spider-Man. So exactly. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it was JB Lee who acts like, oh, maybe Chip Zdarsky didn't want to interrupt the other books with the events. I mean, maybe, but I think then don't do an event. And I don't think it would have been his decision. I still think that would have been editorial's decision.
Yeah, and I get that if that is the case, but it ties directly into everything that's been going on in Daredevil, so it's kind of, and in other places, not so much all the books, like all the major books are kind of ignoring this, but you've seen little plants of it in like Miles and in like, I don't know, other places, but yeah, I don't know. That's a little thin.
Yeah. So let's start talking about the big news piece here. So Super Bowl had a couple of trailers that came out, but the big one was Doctor Strange, and this is its second trailer. And we got closer looks at America Chavez, and there's definitely teases to the Illuminati. But when that was revealed, we got to hear most likely Patrick Stewart's voice, who plays Professor Xavier from the X-Men franchise. So we wanted to ask what X-Men characters we think we're gonna see, and I guess also like, did you like the trailer? This trailer had a lot more Scarlet Witch as well. So if you liked WandaVision, this is which I love WandaVision. I still think it's the best of the Disney Plus shows. I'm very excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I love WandaVision as well, and seeing more of her character on the big screen is really cool, and that whole conversation with her, debating with him, you'll be a hero, I'll be a villain, it's not fair, that kind of thing. I love that. I see we got a super chat, so I'll keep this short, but I really liked the trailer. I thought it was really cool. Like you said, we got to see more of America. We got to see what some people are thinking is Nightmare. Some people were thinking it was Null, and Donny Cates shot that down. But
yeah, that's a pretty recent character.
Right. No, it's really cool, and there's so many things they could do with this. I mean, the multiverse is wide open, and hearing Patrick Stewart's voice and saying we should tell him the truth, and it's just like, okay, we're going there now. We've been talking about this for a long time, finally, and what can they do with that franchise now? What can they do with the X-Men in the MCU? So it could be really cool. So I'm curious what they're going to do. Yeah,
I think if Spider-Man's any telltale, I think we're going to get X-Men from different generations. We'll get like first class X-Men, maybe Magneto, because he was the most popular. And if we're going to have Wolverine, it'd be Old Man Logan. I don't think we get Wolverine. I think it'd be because we have Patrick Stewart. Like, I think that's what's going to end up happening. They're going to cherry pick from the different generations of X-Men.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm fine with that. Like, I don't even care if we throw in a couple of them New Mutants kids, even though I know that wasn't a great,
Maybe
greatly
Magic.
received film. Yeah,
I could see Magic just because the actress is popular and,
yeah,
you know, she could be a character they utilize. But same thing for like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. You know, not a lot of people love that, or Electro. And then I think he was one of
right.
the biggest stars of that movie. People are like, oh my God, I
Yeah,
love Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man now.
yeah, exactly. So do we want to do that super chat real quick?
Yes, I'm going to highlight it. So you want to read it?
All right. On new types sent this, so thank you, new type, for the super
Thank
chat.
you.
We appreciate it. On Secret Identity retcon, since the new Miss Marvel issue will come out tomorrow, I want the mind wipe of Kamala's parents to be undone. It was so pointless. I agree with
Does
that
it come out
wholeheartedly.
tomorrow?
Is it tomorrow? I did
I
not
don't
see that
think
on the
so.
list.
Yeah, I don't think Miss Marvel comes out tomorrow. Might have been delayed. I actually think it was
Yeah,
delayed. It was
it
originally
probably
on
was
my
delayed.
list. Yeah, and I don't think it is coming out tomorrow. But yeah, I mean that would be wonderful, but I don't see this series taking that route. It doesn't seem like they're building up towards that.
Yeah, that was one of the dumbest things they did in that book, I think,
Because
was
there's no
taking their
purpose.
memories. Yeah. No purpose, no point of it. And it was just like, again, putting things back in the box. And it just, I don't know.
I think it's a TV show. I think they don't know in the show and they're like, we got to make that happen in the comics now.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I think it would have led to more interesting stories with them being in on it. Instead of what we've seen with her going back and hiding everything again.
Or at least the mom, because the mom has known since day one. So it really didn't make sense that she didn't know because she figured it out without Kamala telling her.
Right. Yeah. It just felt like they walked that back too far, and it took the entire, I don't know, that entire plot line back two steps too many. I know what I'm trying to say. I can't. I don't know. I can't articulate it. So yes, thank you. Oh man, I'm trying to do too many things at once, and I'm stumbling. Sorry about that.
So that is our news for this week. Yeah, we're excited for Doctor Strange. It's coming out soon. Batman comes out really soon. I literally just bought my tickets today, so watching that on the day it comes out. Excited for that. There's a lot of things to look forward to in the comic book world, and it's cool to get Marvel movies again and watching them every couple of months because we had a long dry spell where we after Infinity War that we didn't have any Marvel movies because of COVID.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it was like a long time, and I'm still behind. Like I still haven't watched Black Widow. I still haven't watched Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi is good. Black Widow is skippable.
We just watched Eternals like the weekend before last.
I haven't seen Eternals yet. That's the only one I haven't seen because I'm like, oh, don't want to sit through it.
I don't think it's your thing. We actually liked it, and we couldn't understand all the hate for it. I thought it was a really good movie, but it's more in my fandom, my taste, my personal taste. So I don't think it's your thing. I think you'll think it's really slow.
I think so too, which is why I've been not wanting to watch it.
Yeah, I don't think it's as slow as people make it out to be. Actually, there was a lot of action in it and a lot of forward momentum. But yeah,
I like Harry Styles, so I'm excited to see that 2 seconds that he shows up.
Right, it was very, very, very short. Yeah, but it was cool.
Yeah, I will watch it, I think, one day when I'm doing work and want something in the background type thing, which I don't usually watch television in the background. I've been trying to be better with it because it's good to be in the know with all the stuff. And, I could watch something for an hour and do something else. So it's not like I have to put my full attention on Eternals.
Right.
All right. Well, before we get into the news, Brant, you have a Kickstarter going on, and it is doing so well. I've already told Brant, and I'm saying here, I think it's tracking for 1,000 backers. So get ready, guys. But it's an amazing book. I'm so excited for it.
We just launched it yesterday morning, and it just now, as I'm watching it, went over the 9,000 mark. It's crazy.
I would say it's crazy, but it's not crazy because it's totally what it deserves. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is my wife's book actually, and it features an all female creative team, and she's the writer, creator behind this. I'm just helping promote it, and I kind of worked on the page and helped her here and there. But it's a wonderful fantasy comic for a mature audience. It's a love story at the heart of it, but there's murder, there's intrigue, there's suspense, there's all kinds of elements to this story going forward. Hold on, I'm on the comments page. Sorry about that.
But we want to read all the comments too, of course.
we are getting some really good feedback. This is the main cover by Carola Borelli, who is just amazingly talented, fantastic artist. That's over. I got to take that off the page. But anyway, here's some character sketches that were done for it of the two main characters, Astria and Gemma. There are central characters in this story. There is a villainous character. There is the all-female creative team. We got a variant cover by Marguerite Savage, which is amazing. Fabiano Mascolo also did a cover for it. Just an all-star team involved with this book. And, it is in SFW. Scroll past that real quick. But if you want to see more, you can go to the page, bloomprettycomic.com, and check that out. But here's some of the interior art for you. And I'll get down to the covers real quick. So that's the main cover. There's our Princess Bride homage cover, which, yeah, it's so beautiful. That's by Lorenza. I'm not going to try to pronounce her last name because I will butcher it. This is the Fabiana cover, obviously censored. This is by Sid Mills. Just gorgeous painted cover. And this is Marguerite's cover, which we use for the project image. So all kinds of cool covers on there. More about the creative team. There's your reward tiers. You can check that out. There is a box where you can get everything. You can get down to that, the Bloom Pretty Collector's box. So all kinds of cool stuff on this if you want to go check it out. It is live for another 28 days, but we are already almost funded. It looks like we might reach that tonight, the way it's going, which is just insane. We're so thankful. I know Lisa is just over the moon and just blown away by the support for this. It's something she's worked on for years, and it's something she's wanted to work on for even many years before that. It's a project that's been kind of rattling in the back of her brain for a long time that she's finally been able to realize. And she's just so overwhelmed by the support for this. So thank you to anyone that has backed it or shared it or checked it out. We really appreciate it. But yeah, you can check it out at bloomprettycomic.com, and I'll drop that link in the comments too.
Awesome. I will quickly mention my Kickstarter just because it's only about a week left for this one. So go check out The Dancer. We are getting to this finish line, which I'm excited for because as we all know, when you have a 30-day campaign, man, you get tired. Sometimes you're like, man, I'm excited. You love the process of a Kickstarter, but you're like, oh, I can't wait until the end. So we only have 8 days left, and we have 10 backers left to get to 400. We'd love to do that before we get into those final days. Go check it out. It's about a dancer/assassin. And when she's little, she witnessed her parents being murdered in front of her and never dealt with that trauma until now. We got stained glass cover. We got nice Caitlin Smith cover. And then we got this cool kind of cartoonier assassin cover. So go check it out. I'll drop a link in the chat. So let's get into our big books. I'm going to pass it on to Brant because usually Mike does this. And usually when it's only two of us, pass it on to Brant. So.
Right. So we will do the obligatory spoiler alert there because we are going to spoil these books. So if you have not read them, feel free to fast forward or come back to this later. But hopefully you'll stick around and chat with us about them. So yeah, let's see what our first big book is. I know I have it open in one of these windows. You got to navigate over back to it. Sorry. All right, so yeah, the first book we're going to talk about is one of our favorites here on the show, which is Radiant Black, issue number 12, and this is the next issue leads into Supermassive, so it's like that's the next thing coming from this whole world. So this book was a focus on Radiant Pink and how she got her. I don't know. I don't know what her pronouns are actually.
I think Eva. I think it's she. I don't know if they.
Yeah, I think so.
They're non-binary. But correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's she.
Yeah, I believe you're correct. So how Eva got her powers and became Radiant Pink, and how that affected her entire world around it. And it was cool looking into her life. Like she was a game streamer, and that was kind of her world, and she had sponsors and all that. and that impacted her life as well. And then this superhero thing just kind of took it to another level. It was a really good issue, I thought. What did you think about it, Kat?
I really enjoyed this because I don't know if I was really expecting anything from it. So,
Yeah.
because I didn't, this is a character that she was just kind of there. So it was like, okay, cool, I guess, like Radiant Pink, awesome. And then you get totally sucked in from this issue. Because, and I think something that was done really correctly here is that Kyle actually, and I didn't know this till like after I read the book, got a real streamer to co-write it with him. So I knew that when after I read it, I was like, this is like so realistic. It doesn't like feel like it's better than like a social media influencer, because a lot of comics and stories will be like very like tongue in cheek about it and not tell a real story about what it's like to have a job like this. And more people are working online and doing things like this. So I was like, oh, this feels like really realistic and talks about the actual struggles of being an influencer. And then, I found out that the person who wrote it with him was actually an influencer. I was like, oh, that's the reason why it felt so realistic. And that's the thing I really liked about it. And I really like this character. I'm like, oh man, she's like one of my new favorites of Radiant Black now, just from this one issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did not know that. I had not found that out. So that's really cool to know that. And yeah, it totally makes sense now, because you can see that it was like, this is a lot of inside baseball, to use an old term. And I thought it was brilliant the way that it was portrayed on the page, and kind of an insight into that world and what you deal with when you're doing that. And I love the way that she's like up and, upbeat and on. And then as soon as that stream ends, she's just like, it's just like, that's realism, right? It's like, you just, sometimes it becomes so much that you just like, okay, I got through that. It's like going to a job, right? You do your thing, you're on, and then you're home, and you're like, oh my God, I'm glad that day's over. You just have days like that. And it was a great insight into that world.
Yeah, and I think one thing I've really enjoyed about Radiant Black in general is like, as a writer, I'm sure me and Brant both like understood and felt what Nathan was feeling in those first few issues. We're like, whoa,
Right.
that's super relatable. But I think even as a comic writer, comic creator, that's especially an indie creator, having to push and being on social media and doing all these stuff and almost kind of creating your own brand, I kind of related to this character as well, where you're like, oh man,
totally.
Sometimes you always have to be on. And obviously from a kind of different angle, she kind of plays a Twitch YouTube role. Not that we don't do YouTube, but definitely not to her extent. But yeah, I definitely related to that from a branding comic side of stuff, where you're like, ooh, okay, sometimes you're always on and you're just like, want to be off sometimes, and you do feel that burnout.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, I'm a very quiet, reserved person, and when I get on these shows and stuff, I can't be that, right? Like I gotta be a different version of myself, and it's sometimes you do need to step that back a little bit. It's interesting. Like I was watching somebody else's stream recently. It relates, and they were talking about how many retakes they have to do for their Kickstarter videos, and I commented, I'm like, don't feel bad. I do like 10, 15 retakes of mine. And they're like, oh no, we've seen you on video. You're a pro. You probably do it in one and done. And I'm just like, you just have no idea. That is not me at all. I'm like, so, picky and, not confident with the results of it. Yeah,
I don't even do the video.
I've gotten to the point where I'm doing less and less of it, but I try to do like just a little bit, but yeah, it's even with these streams, it's like I have to like work myself up to it and stuff. Even after all these years, I'm still kind of an introverted guy, and it's funny. So yeah, seeing that insight into that too, and like you said, building that brand online, and I think that's what kind of drew me to Radiant Black in the first place, was the great insight into the characters and into their real world, and kind of breaking that down and really getting to the heart of who these characters are. And I think he's done an excellent job across the board with all of them, and through different walks of life, through the streaming, through the writing, through Marshall working at a video store. You can relate to all of them in different ways, and you can understand their struggles. And I think it's brilliant in that way.
Yeah, they're telling real stories that I don't feel like a lot of comics tackle, where I feel like it's just very relatable. Like you said, no matter which character you're talking about, even if you're not a writer, you probably have felt times where you're like, oh, I'm not good enough, or like, oh, that sucked, or even this character, you felt times where you've burned out so much in your career or your work that it's affecting your relationships. You don't have to be a streamer to feel that feeling. So I thought they did a really good job with that. We do have a question from Mike Manhattan. What do you guys think will happen to Nathan? Will he become a new Radiant? If so, will his color be green? For sure. It's either green or white. I think you mentioned in your comments, like if they're doing the Power Rangers things, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, green and white are the ones that are missing, right? So we kind of need that. That would be cool. Even if he was like, I don't know, maybe he becomes the Zordon.
Oh God,
Maybe
that'd be
he,
interesting too. Nice twist.
right? Yeah. So we'll see. I think they'll do something with him for sure, though. All right. So the next book we're going to be talking about, we were just talking about a little bit, which is Devil's Reign #4. So if you have anything else to say about that.
Yeah, just on me. I'm not feeling the event. I thought the ending was the only interesting thing, and I don't even find that overall interesting. Like, it was just interesting for that issue.
Like I said, I really liked this issue. I thought this was one of the strongest issues of the event, just because I think it had that big event feel, even though it's not, with all the heroes coming into play, and it was kind of, they're coming to that where they take the stand. Jessica Jones and being like, I'm tired of dealing with this. They're going after kids now. You got the Avengers, you got the Champions. We've seen the New Warriors and all this stuff coming together. I think it's, I don't know. It was a solid issue for me, but I totally understand your point with that. All right, so we'll move into our #5 then. What was your #5, Kat? I'm still trying to sort mine out, actually.
Mine is the Joker at a default. I know. But I mean, there's beats I enjoyed. I think it, progressed the story a bit. We get to see Jim's like, all right, let's go on this adventure, and I don't really care if Cassandra's following me. I'm just gonna do it anyways. So we get a little progression. We get to see the female Bane, Vengeance. I forget her name.
Vengeance. Yeah.
Vengeance. So it was a fine issue. It just kind of at a default made it on my top 5. I think this series has been stronger in the past, and it does feel like a series is like trying to wrap up but hasn't. It's been way too many issues in my opinion.
Yeah, I read the last 3 issues back to back, kind of. So
yeah, they also collide a little, because I was really trying to think, because I read it Wednesday. I was like, what happened in this issue? Was that last issue? What issue is this?
Yeah, fortunately, this particular issue is one of the last books I read, so it's kind of fresh in my mind. So I was like kind of happy at the beginning, because it wasn't as dense as the previous issues have been. I was like, okay, finally I can breathe a little bit, and then it got into the density, and I was like, oh man. But even with that, I thought this was a better issue, because again, it moved the story forward. We got the culmination of this mystery of who's behind A-Day, which I thought was cool. And I won't say I didn't see that coming. I didn't know it was going to be that character. I really didn't know that that's who that was. But it makes total sense. And now it's taken this story into another level, and it's kind of picked up, because now you got other characters involved, and it's not just Jim Gordon going after the Joker. Now you got the Batgirls, you got, all these other characters involved, Bullock and stuff. So at least it's picked up a little bit. And so hopefully going forward into the conclusion of this arc, or whatever, however we're going to go from here, it's not as slow and drawn out as these past like 6 issues have been. So
yeah, for sure. I will. And I think that's why it did make my top 5 out of like the 9 books I read. It was just like, okay, it felt like something was happening at least.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. So I think mine, I'm going with X Deaths of Wolverine #2. This is a better book than I expected it to be. This was all about Moira again, and she's still on the run. Jane Foster is still helping her cover her tracks, and trying to figure out where the cancer came from and stuff. And it looks like it was planted by Mystique and Destiny. It's got floronic matter in it, so it's like from Krakoa. And so this was an intense issue. She's on the run. She's diving in cheap motels to stay off the radar, but she still got this arm from I keep forgetting that name of the character with Doug. What is his name? The weird character that's made of circuits and stuff. from the
Oh
New
man,
Mutants
I know
set.
you're talking about
Yeah,
something with a C.
yeah, I can never remember his name. Anyway, so she had that arm where her arm had been chopped off. So she's like, okay, this is how they're tracking me. So she gets like an iron and she like cuts this arm off. Now she's got no arm again, and she like solders it with the iron. She goes on the run, and now there's like this weird Wolverine character that's also has these circuits flowing through him, and he's been birthed from this pod that apparently is older than Krakoa, like 1,000 years older than Krakoa. So it's a time travel thing, and now it's hunting her, and now Mystique's dead again, and it was intense. It was a really, I don't know, strong issue for me, and I enjoyed it quite a bit, more than I probably should have. So,
Hey, if you're enjoying it, that's
yeah.
all that matters. We do have Mike's number 5, which is Detective Comics. So
Yeah. I don't even remember what happened in that issue, to be honest. So I marked it really low. So that's like the one book that's just like, did I read that? I don't remember what happened in it. So are you reading Detective? You don't know. Okay.
No, I dropped it. I dropped it after the first issue. Oh, we got Mike, at least in the chat. He said, "Hello,
Nice.
everyone. Just want to apologize about not being on tonight. My computer took a crap tonight. Yeah, it sucks. You know, we can't control technology. We'll hope we'll be in our trio next week."
Yeah, absolutely. Wish you were here, Mike. All right. So we already talked about the Joker. So we'll talk about Mighty Morphin number 16. What did you think of this issue?
I liked it. I still think this event is not my favorite of the franchise, but I mean the ending was interesting. Is Zordon dead again? I think there's one more issue of this war. I think there's one more issue.
Yeah. So I liked the way that it came full circle with those three, with Zordon, Zed, and Sardis. Is that his name? There's so many Z's, right?
Many Z's, yeah.
There's so many Z's. But in the flashback, and basically, I think Zed, it was revealed to him that no, this wasn't Zordon's fault. That he was actually trying to, do right by Zed. And so I think it's going to change the dynamic between those two going forward, which I think is really interesting. And if that's the culmination of this, if that's where we go from here, that Zed is now a good guy or whatever, I think that's an interesting twist. So that's kind of my takeaway from this issue. But it was
Draken did some good stuff here too. So it's like, oh, it's interesting to see like all these morally great characters kind of being anti-heroes, at least in this issue. We don't know if that'll be forever.
Right, absolutely. He's always serving his own purposes, right? So he could change on a dime. But yeah, you're right. Though, aside from the rest of the issue, which was just all action heavy, everything's action. We got those two big moments, which again, going forward, it leads to really interesting stories that we could play with. So that's kind of my takeaway from this one.
We do have a question from New Type JB Lee. Also on Devil's Reign, would you like champions play a bigger role like Kamala, Viv, and Riri and Sam? Not really, because I don't think it fits. Like, I know they're trying to showcase them here, but they just kind of seem thrown in.
Yeah, they did seem kind of thrown in. I loved seeing them, and I thought the way that they were portrayed in this issue was really good. I would rather that kind of story be told with champions than what we got in their series. But yeah, not so much in Devil's Reign, but yes, outside of it, I would love to see somebody take a different direction with those characters, because I do like those characters.
Yeah.
All right, so going into our number 4s then. My number 4 was actually Mighty Morphin, so we just talked about that.
And mine was 7 Secrets issue, whatever we're up to.
14,
I'm trying to remember what happened in this issue. It was
a very short issue.
Yeah, I know that the mom, was getting back to health. I really like the cliffhanger of this issue, which was Amon revealing the secret to Casper. That was interesting. And, there's definitely a lot of good small moments in here. It was a very A to B, though. It wasn't as strong as the previous one. Obviously, it shows it was a little forgettable. But I did like the cliffhanger a lot.
Yeah. So this was also one of the last books I read, so it's also very fresh. But it was a quick read. I think that was the main takeaway was that, and seeing Kanto and Amon just kill people when they didn't have to, and that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Like they killed Tot. I don't remember how you say his name. Tot so something. But they like he was already like stabbed and already on his knees, and they just shot him in the head. It's like, why'd you have to do that? So it's like they're going full villain on this, and for whatever reason. So yeah, we're getting that confrontation. I'm assuming this leads to Casper's death finally. When the secret's revealed, we'll see how that plays out. And then you had the moment with Casper and I can't remember his name, but the bully, and how he apologized to him. Yeah, how he apologized to him, gave him a flower, and was like, I'm sorry, I just really wanted this bad, and you were in my way, kind of thing. So, yeah, like you said, some small moments. It fell just under my top 5, but yeah, solid issue.
And Mike's number 4 was X Lives of Wolverine issue 2.
Nice. All right, so moving on to our next book, which we already said we don't know what happened in it, so we'll skip Detective Comics for this because I really don't remember. I don't even remember what the story is right now. It's the Tower. It's the Tower, right?
It is the Tower, but it comes out weekly, so it's very hard to.
Yeah, this might have been the first book I read. That's why it's not so fresh.
You loved it that much. You're like, let me read this first top of the pile book.
Yeah, I really don't remember what happened in it. Like, yeah, I don't remember. So I'll save that one. Mike can recap this next week. It was obviously not that memorable, I guess. If anybody in the comments wants to school us on what happened to Detective, go for it.
And I didn't read it at all, so.
Yeah. And we already talked about 7 Secrets, so I guess we will move right into our number 3s. What was your number 3?
Power Rangers. We already talked about it.
Okay. So mine is a book I don't think you're reading. Maybe I'm wrong. Buffy the Last Vampire Slayer.
I'm not. No.
Okay.
I'm glad to hear it's, picking up, though, it seems.
Yeah. So I think it's a really interesting story. So it's in the future. She's old. Everybody's dead. Except for, like, Anya's still alive, obviously. In last issue, this girl came to Buffy named Thessaly, and we find out that she is Willow and Tara's daughter. And Willow and Tara have died now. And so she's apparently the next Slayer, but you're not allowed to be a Slayer anymore. So she's trying to get Buffy to teach her, but she's also got witch powers. And so it's this interesting dynamic with her trying to learn both, and Buffy like not wanting to have anything to do with it. And she's become estrayed from Willow before all this went down and stuff. So and then Spike pops up in this issue. And so it's really interesting. They're trying to bring the sun back because the sun's gone and the vampires rule the world now, and you can't attack the vampires anymore and that kind of thing. So it's taken this story into a whole different place, and I think it's really interesting, and the writing's smart, and it still sounds like Buffy. And so I'm quite enjoying it. I didn't know if I was going to like it when it first came out, but I'm really enjoying it so far.
I'm glad that they're doing something better with that franchise, because for a while it wasn't pitting a nerve. But at least they did something different with Angel. They're doing something different with Buffy. We do have a question from New Type JB Lee about Buffy. Thoughts on the original TV show? I feel like Xander has not aged well. His crush on Buffy is real annoying. I love Buffy. I think it's a great show. I love it. I think there's so many great episodes from the show.
I still have not gotten past season 4. That season just, oh my goodness, it left me in such a. I've watched like random episodes and I've seen the end, but full watch I stopped in season 4 because it just left such a bad taste in my mouth.
See, I feel like that for me, and I know not a lot of people agree with it, I think the best seasons are 1 through 3. So I don't necessarily think, unless you have like the key episodes, which I know you've seen, like I don't necessarily think you need to watch more.
Yeah, it's like I watched the whole ending and that whole thing, and I watched like the musical episode, stuff like that, key episodes, like you said. So I've probably seen the best of the show. Then season 4 just went way downhill. Yeah,
season 4 is not great. And even season 6 had its hardships. Season 5, they all had its hardships. So Angel, I love Angel, but even that show had its hardships. So
never watched that one. So I
think you would definitely you would really like Angel because like procedural and I think actually you might like it more than Buffy.
Yeah, maybe so. One of these days. All right, so where are we at? We did our number 3s. X Death of Wolverine. I already talked about that.
I forgot to talk about Mike's number 3, which was the Scorched issue 2.
Okay, I had not read that. So, Batgirls. Let's talk about that. So,
Yeah,
this was
Batgirls
an
is such a
issue.
weird book. Yeah, it's such a weird book. I mean, I like the book. I like it.
Yeah.
But I also have such weird feelings about it because I like Cassandra and Steph so much, and it's like everything I want from them, even if they're very young, and are like feel kind of out. It feels like this is not part of the reality of the other Batman books in some ways, but I like the issue because of them. I would say it's such a, I was expecting this to be a Nightwing type book where it's like, oh my god, this is what we all been waiting for, and I don't think it's touched that, but I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah, it's the same. That's the only reason I keep reading it, because of Steph and Cass's relationship. I love those two characters, and I don't think we do enough with them. It is weird because like you see Cass in this book, and then you see Cass in the Joker.
Right.
It's like there's two different characters. Yeah. So that's the disconnect. But at the same time, I it's fun. It's very, you got to be in the right mind frame to read this book because it is very dialogue heavy. It's a dense read, but it's also a fun read. So it's a lot of dialogue, but it's punchy, fun dialogue. So it's a little bit easier to digest. But at the same time, if you're really tired, don't read this book because you
I
won't get
always
the
read it
best out of it.
first.
Yeah.
I always read it like one of the first ones because I agree. It's like it's very dialogue heavy, and a lot of times with the villain stuff, I'm so not interested.
Yeah, it's all about the dynamic with the Batgirls. That's the only thing that matters in this book. The villains don't really matter at all. I would say, it's just, it's like one of those things. But it's a fine book. It's not something that I can't wait to read, though. Unfortunately. All right, so let's get into our number twos then. Mine was Devil's Reign, so we already talked about that.
Mine is actually Batgirls, but again, I
Okay.
only really liked my first. I liked this book. It was like a 3.5-star book, but it wasn't like a 4.5-star book. Like I only really liked my number one. I thought that was a great book.
Yeah, gotcha. Totally understand that. So, what was Mike's number two?
Mike's number two was, I think, Radiant Black. Yeah, Radiant Black.
Radiant Black. Yeah, I see what his number one is. He was trying to. I haven't read that series, so
I would read it if I wasn't burned so many times by a Millar ending. I feel like he does such a good job in those beginning issues, and then the ending never is great. So I will wait for trade on that book. That is, exactly. I have to, especially because the premise didn't hook me in. So I was like, it's another Millar book. Should I really get it? If the premise was good, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go get it. So I'm waiting that one out.
Yeah. So we basically spoiled Mike's number one, which was King of Spies, number three. He was like, "You got to read this book," and I was like, "Yeah, okay." But we'll see. I mean, Mike's giving it praise. I'll definitely have to check it out at some point. So before we get to our number ones, though, which they're probably the same one.
I believe so, which is so interesting that I think like this whole entire year we've had like the same number ones.
I know, it's crazy. It's so crazy. It never happened in the past. So randomly, but not consistently at all. So let's talk about Superman Son of Kal-El, number 8.
I have not liked this arc. I hate hating on this book, but I really didn't like this arc, and I didn't like this issue, and I was very bored.
This issue again was just like you said, point A to B with Seven Secrets. This one was also kind of short. I actually skimmed this one because this was like the last book I read, I think. But I got the gist of it, and it was mostly narration all the way to like the last bit of it. Then you got a little bit of dialogue between Jay and John. But the bulk of it was just narration and kind of telling what happened as they took care of this monster that was coming for
filler.
Metropolis. Yeah, it really was filler. And it, the conclusion of it all is that Bendix is bringing more to the superheroes. He's doing his own version of the Justice League that he can control, kind of thing. So, and it leaves John joining the truth and going to wear a mask now. And that's kind of where we went with this issue. But yeah, it was kind of boring up until that point. So yeah, not loving it since issue 5, actually. It's been downhill from there.
Yeah,
for me.
I feel like one of the issues with the book thus far is that I actually don't think they've done enough with Jay and John. I feel like they had the reveal, and I hate saying this because I don't want to critique it. And I mean, I obviously do. Like, that's what we're doing here. I think it was a great reveal, and I still loving John and Jay. But I feel like as someone who is bi, like I want to actually have bisexual representation. And I just feel like it was revealed, and then they haven't done anything with it. And they talk, and you don't really even see like a connection between the two.
Right.
I'm not saying he needs to talk about his bisexuality, but that was a big reveal, and they haven't done anything with it.
There's no real relationship there. It's like they kissed a
they
couple of times. Yeah, they kissed a couple of times, talked on a rooftop once or twice, and that's it. You don't see them together ever. So there's been no build. Yeah.
And it's the opposite of the Tim and Bernard thing, where they had such limited pages, but at least they're doing something with them.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's been no build since that reveal. In issue 5, and it's just been thrown into the action, got to save Metropolis, deal with this whole thing. Hopefully going forward, now that he's part of the truth and he's going to be more interconnected with that world, that we'll see more of the character development there and the building of that relationship. But these past 3 issues have just been a letdown, honestly, for me.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
And then we have the Nightwing crossover, which I'm excited for because I'm loving Nightwing and I'm hoping it picks up. But then it's like, why another crossover? Why are we not just like figuring out what Superman's about? Like, what is that book about?
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree more.
And honestly, that's also maybe even like a negative of Nightwing, which is it works in its favor that it's about nothing. But like, it is a book that's not really about anything besides like the Heart people are kind of looming in the background, but that's about it. I mean, there's like very little story thread. Like, like someone's chasing Nightwing. But it's mostly a character book, which again is not a problem. I'm just saying, like, it has similar issues, I guess. But in Nightwing, it works, and Superman, they don't have enough supporting characters that it does.
Right? Yeah. Maybe it comes down to that. Maybe it is the supporting characters. I agree with you completely, though. Nightwing is more about characters, and it's fine. And you get some of the action there, and you do, like you said, get some of those villains in the background. But maybe the difference is that the villains and the situations Nightwing's dealing with are a little bit more interesting than what's going on in Superman. Yeah, because this whole Bendix thing and the Rising, I don't care. That's the problem with that. Mm-hmm. So. All right, so the last book we got to talk about, as far as the big books go, is the Amazing Spider-Man number 88 Beyond. We don't have to talk about it.
Yeah, no, we have to talk about it because we really don't, because this was not great. I don't love Beyond pointy issues, and I don't care about Bobby enough to care about this. We haven't seen him in such a long time. Like, I'm guessing it's building towards something, but I'm like, this was such a filler. I didn't like it. And it's what I didn't like is because we had the Mary Jane and the Red Queen stuff that is so interesting right now.
Right, and you just stepped away from that to go to this, and it's like, and it took place during King in Black, so it's not even like current storytelling. This group, it's like whatever. But like with him, is it Hobby or Hobie? I never know how to pronounce his name. Prowler guy.
I always say Hobby, but we might be wrong.
Hornet. I'll call him Hornet because that's his name now. It was like, this whole issue was like, okay, I've got this great idea. Let's take my Kickstarter ripoff and turn it into this thing. Oh, Beyond bought it? Why'd they buy it? Oh, they gave me a lot of money for it. I'm happy. Oh, wait, they're going to do it with this with it now? Oh, okay, then I got to be mad again. So it's just like, I'm mad, I'm happy, I'm mad, I'm happy. Okay. It was just so all over the place, and nothing really happened because they go to save somebody that didn't need saving. He was like, I'm just doing a job, man. I'm cool. It's like,
it was such a weird issue. And even the art was like fine. It was just so forgettable.
It was just okay.
Don't need to read it. We do have a super chat by new type JB Lee, $5. Thank you so much. Also on Miss Marvel and Binus. How would you feel a writer does pair Nakia and Zoe together, or Kamala and Nakia? Every girl in the G. Willow Wilson run has a crush on Nakia. See, I love everyone being queer, but Kamala, she's straight. I've never seen any queerness from that character.
No. And not everybody has to be. I mean,
you
can have your straight character.
Straight people do exist in this world, and they're allowed to exist. And I never saw any readings or codings for Miss Marvel to be queer. which
Yeah.
is great that we have Zoe. You know, she's a queer character and she's had a great journey. Nakia, I've always read her as asexual. And I feel like they've definitely even stated she's like, oh, I don't have feelings for people like in that way. I think when Zoe
Yeah.
came out, so like I rather them just be friends because I think that's stronger for their relationship.
Yeah.
And that scene where she does come out and be like, hey, I don't like you that way, but we still could be friends, and I don't care that you're gay, and like, you know, like that doesn't change our relationship and that you like me.
Yeah. That said, I would like them to do more with the supporting characters and explore their personal journeys as well as Kamala's, because I don't think we see enough of that now.
Yeah, I feel like this series has been doing a little better of a job at it. Like I liked the last issue and they were very involved, but I don't think since G. Willow Wilson's run we've had authentic arcs for them, which is sad.
Yeah.
Like Zoe had an arc, Nakia had an arc, Mike had an arc, Bruno had an arc, and I don't, because we have such limited time with Kamala herself, we're not getting arcs from the supporting characters.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I did look it up. It comes out next week, not tomorrow. So
okay, that's
wait till
what I
next Wednesday. Yeah,
I think it was delayed because I think it was supposed to come out tomorrow because it was originally on my list and it wasn't there. So I guess it's just next week.
Right.
Which is so interesting. I compare Miss Marvel to like Kate Bishop because they both have shows in Disney Plus, and I didn't like the Kate Bishop issue this week. I was like, man, I guess last issue was the only one because I liked it last issue a lot, and this week and it wasn't bad. It just didn't make my top 5. I was like, man, I want to love this series, and I think these characters deserve more. And I feel like they're just mini series that are there because the shows are coming out.
Yeah, I agree. I did enjoy it. It's not in my top 5, obviously, but yeah, I agree. It wasn't as the whole series. It's not been like, oh my god, you gotta go read this. But I think it's been fun, and I think I still think this writer has Kate's voice. I know you disagree on those first couple issues, but
no, now I feel like she has. It sucks that Cassie and America Chavez are just text messages,
right?
So that makes it hard. But I like I didn't think in the first issue she had her voice, but I liked these issues, and I like her sister a lot. I think she's a really cool character.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would love to see a book with Kate, Cassie, and America. Just put them all 3 in a book. Do that. I'm down. So
I don't know why it's not happening. Like that would be a lot of fun. Speaking of characters that I think could be more would be Kate, just because at least they've referenced that in the past. I'm like, oh, I could at least see that. Miss Marvel, they haven't referenced that at all. Yeah, so that's some characters are very straight. Some characters are bi, and I don't think Marvel wants to announce any characters being bi right now from you know, just we haven't seen any. I think the last one we've had was Nico.
Yeah,
it's just true. So funny that DC had so many this year.
Right?
Marvel's like, oh, you know, you like Carolina and Nico? We're gonna cancel Runaways, and then put them in a Pride book, pretending like we're celebrating them. And then all those characters that showed up there, they're in notebooks. You can't read further. But we have this one Pride issue.
Yep, that's Marvel. Hopefully, we'll see more going forward. We'll see. They got so many characters they could do something with. Like you said, none of those characters have books. Do something with these characters. We love these characters.
And like, especially like Nico. I mean, I'm not saying like Carolina can hold her own book, but Nico with a team, people really like that character. And she has the magic aspect. And then obviously you could bring Carolina along for the ride. Or even if you did a Carolina book, you have Space Adventure. She's in space right now. You have other characters in space join her. Like, look, I'm not saying Carolina Dean should have a Carolina Dean book. I know she's not going to carry that, but she could be in other books. And I mean, same thing for like Power Pack and these other type of characters, or like Darkhawk. They could be in other books. Yeah. Why do we have to see Clint and Wolverine in 12,000 books? Why can't we see these other characters at least in one and make a really fun run with it? Because that's the only way you're going to sell it. Put a big writer on it. And, you know, give us a pitch of a lifetime. You know, these writers have awesome pitches. It's so interesting. It's like, you know, what goes through and what doesn't go through. Like you hear back like 5 years ago, like, oh, this almost happened and then never did. It's like, oh, what was the no for?
Right. It's like going back, like with a book like New Warriors, when that first came out, you can almost like look back and say, okay, there was a writer that loved like all these characters that they were doing absolutely nothing with, and decided, I'm going to pitch putting them on a team, and let's do that. And it had a long run, and it was a really good book. So,
but that's why I'm kind of interested in a book like Savage Avengers, because that kind of feels similar. It's like, oh, why is Black Knight here?
Right? Yeah, it's. I mean, he's in Eternals actually, so that's kind of cool. Sort of, not really, but sort of. Going forward in MCU, we might see Black Knight, which would be cool.
Yeah, they've been pushing him, so I'm not totally surprised. We need more X-Men books, like X-Men Alpha, the AOA. Yeah, we definitely need more X-Men books.
Yeah, totally.
That's what I want.
We need more good X-Men books, is what we need.
Yes, that is actually what I do want. I'm literally buying one X-Men book, and it's Marauders, and it's at a default because Kitty's in it, or else I would be buying no X-Men books.
Yeah. All right, so shall we just reveal our number ones, which I think the viewers have probably already figured out. Radiant Black, of course, yes. So that is our number one. So let us move on to most anticipated then.
Yes, we will reveal Mike's most anticipated. So Mike's number 3 was Thor issue 22, which I'm really excited for. There's a couple of books that was really hard to figure out which one I wanted for number 3, because there is like a good amount of books I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's actually my number 3 as well. I was wrestling with this too. I was looking through everything, and I'm like, I can't have my list the same as Kat's again. So I got to figure out a way to mix this up. And I am really excited for Thor as well. That was one of the two I was teetering back and forth. That one and your number 3. But yeah, I want to see what happens with this whole Mjolnir thing and how that's going to play out after we've got that revelation last issue. So.
Thor's been so solid. It's been so, like, every issue. I don't remember a last time I didn't enjoy a Thor issue. So, been really enjoying this run.
Which is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say since, like, Jane Foster showed up. Because I think you're going to say, like, I didn't even pick up this series for, like, 8 issues. Like, that first arc, really disliked it. I was like, this is so boring. And then I picked it up because Jane showed up. I'm like, whoa, this is really interesting.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. So you took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah. So number 2 is Hulk issue 4, a book I'm just sticking with just because of the creative team, but I'm really not liking very much.
Exactly. I couldn't. That's like my exact thoughts on the whole thing. I'm sticking with it because of the team, but yeah, not loving it.
Yeah, I want to get up to the part where they're building to this big Hulk thing, and also Thor, I believe, is tying in with Hulk. So there's so many reasons to stick with the book, but I'm like, man, I don't really like this book very much. It's so weird, and I'm just like, him being in his own head is weird, and it's like they're trying to be Immortal Hulk in that regard, but then trying to do its own thing, and it feels like it's starting in the middle of a story, like it's 50 issues in, and I missed all 50 issues. Like, what's going on?
Exactly. If you came into this cold, you're like totally lost. Like, what's he doing in the spaceship? Oh, it's not a spaceship.
And like, why is Betty there? Oh, wait, that's not actually Betty. That's like a figment of his imagination.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Like, why is there another Bruce Banner? What's going on?
It's so confusing. The art's always nice though, so I'll always give like the art's very good. But we'll see how long we stick with it. I will spoil that this literally all 3 of us are. This is our number 1. Is Reign number 2. Reign issue 1 blew me away. When I read it, I told all my friends that don't even read comics, like, read this book because this is so freaking good. This is how you do a comic. I'm doing By Visibility Volume 2, and one of my editors is like getting into comics, and I was showcasing to them, what to do in a comic, and I was like, oh man, like, read this. This is the perfect issue 1. Like, go read this. It's so good. And it is. I just think it's so new reader friendly. It is my favorite book of the year thus far, and I think it's gonna be hard to beat it.
Yeah, we were all raving about it when we talked about it on the show, and it didn't surprise me at all. It was all our number 1s. Hopefully, going forward, every issue is just as good. That is always a concern when you have an issue that just like really connects with you that way. So, but I'm excited.
It's already in black, where it just gets better somehow.
Right. Exactly. So our number 2s are also the same, which is Nightwing. Yes. We kind of already talked about that and why, and it's the whole crossover thing. I'm looking forward to that. So
I'm also like Superman and Batman, that's like Tom Taylor's wheelhouse, is when you get
Right.
those two together. And I know it's not actually Superman and Batman, but it's their franchises. So I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to that.
absolutely. So, and that is all of our most anticipated. So we'll start wrapping up the show now.
Yes. I think we didn't talk about Iron Fist. So that was my number.
Oh,
3.
yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Iron Fist issue 1, just mostly because it's so different. Like it's not Iron Fist, so it's like, not Danny Rand, I should say.
Right.
Sorry about that. So it's not Danny Rand, so it's like, oh, like, who's this new character? I'm super intrigued, and I want to love an Iron Fist book. So, and I think this is a great way to jump on it, and I'm hoping I love it.
Yeah, this was the other book that I was like going back and forth with Thor, whether it was going to make my list or not. Our list would have been identical. But, yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I love Danny Rand, but I totally understand where they're going with this, and I'm going to assume that it's an Asian character behind that mask, which would make perfect sense with where they're going with the franchise and everything. So but beyond that, I'm really curious who this character is, because it's, according to solicitations, like, came out of nowhere, familiar costume, same powers. How did they get them? Where are they from? What are they doing here? All that stuff. And when a story starts with that, and especially with a big known character that's been on, in the MCU and stuff like that, you just, it makes you perk up. It's like, oh, they're doing something different with this. I got to check that out. So.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll see what ends up happening. There's some good books out tomorrow. I still have only 9 books or so, but there's a lot of books I'm looking forward to reading tomorrow.
Yeah, I think I read 14 this week.
Oh, actually. Wow. Yeah, I read I believe I actually read 9, and then I had a Crowded comes out tomorrow, the finale, but it's the graphic novel.
Really?
Yeah, so it comes out as a trade. I'm glad I mentioned it then. And I just read it all because I was like, I can't read that on Wednesday. It's like 200 pages.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, let me read this today. So I read it all just to get the finale, So that comes out tomorrow as well.
I did not realize that at all. That was totally off my radar. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth reading. You get the whole ending, so it's cool.
Yeah,
I hate that we didn't get the single issues. Oh yeah, because they had to do it all in the graphic novel because there's a lot of people that
totally forgot about that. Yeah, I remember that whole thing now, but I totally forgotten about that. Yeah.
So it comes out for you Crowded fans. Nice. But yeah, that's our show. Hopefully we'll have all 3 of us next week, and Mike figures out the computer issues. But we had a good time, and there's obviously a lot of great books to talk about next week. So Brant, if you want to plug your Kickstarter one more time.
Yeah, so you can head over to bloomprettycomic.com to check it out. I'm just going to check the numbers real quick. I won't share it again. But yeah, it's gone up a little bit more. Now we're almost 9,100, so that's great. If anybody here backed it, thank you. But yeah, if you like fantasy, you like mature, stuff for mature audience, if you like romance, obsession, murder, and plant people, this one's for you. This is by my wife and an all female. I'm stumbling over my words late. All female creative team. Go check it out, bloomprettycomic.com. You got plenty of time. It's live until March 16th. But we are almost funded already. So thank you, and check it out.
Awesome. And yeah, just plugging again the dancer. We have about a week left for that. So it's about a dancer/assassin. When she was little, she witnessed her parents being murdered in front of her. Never dealt with that trauma until now. So it's like if Batman actually dealt with his trauma. So go check it out. We only have 8 days left. And then, we got even more Kickstarters coming up. So look forward to that. And that is about it for us, man. Brant, you did it to me now.
But also,
sorry. It was only the 2 of us for this week, so we had a lot more extra talking than normal.
Right? Yeah, we had to fill in those gaps. Yeah,
we had to fill in the gaps a bit. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. Subscribe, press that bell button so you don't miss our show. Follow our social medias, and like this video because it really does help the channel. Thank you guys, and we'll see you guys in the next one.